NVIDIA is up more than 50% in the last year, and every quarter they release hundreds of pages of earnings data. Reading it all, 6 hours. Asking Claude, 3 seconds. And if you are serious about investing, you need to read all this stuff. But you have a job, a life, and if you track 5 stocks, this can easily be more than 2,000 pages. So you know which road I'm gonna take. So I built something to make my life easier. I give access to Claude to NVIDIA's earnings and presentations, and not just the text, the charts too. So it has access to multimodal information. And all of this inside of Claude Desktop. Watch what happens when I ask it questions. This is wild. And let's start simple. Let's ask, which kind of data do you have about NVIDIA? So here you can see that it's loading the tools, which is the data that I have provided to Claude about NVIDIA. And here you can see the results. Claude has access to all this data from NVIDIA from 2025 and 2026. And this information is very valuable. So let's imagine that we would like to compare what happened between the results of the third quarter and the fourth quarter that were presented on the earnings call. So let's ask Claude instead of reading all those earnings reports. Quick thing, I'm also building a community for people into AI, machine learning, and data science. And if that's you, link is in the description below. Now, heading back to the technical stuff, here you can see that it's loading the tools of compare quarters and then filtering by metadata. As you can see, it's loading all the information that it was provided in my vector store database. And this is already amazing because normally Claude or different LLM providers do not have access to this kind of data, and they normally search on the browser for it, but they often make a lot of mistakes by not retrieving the relevant documents. So here you can see that Claude was able to compare the results between both quarters. Here we can see the difference between revenue, EPS, and so on, even a summary between both quarters, which is super valuable. And you can even see what's the narrative between both quarters. And all of this was obtained by checking what was released on the transcripts of the earnings results. But let's imagine that we want to have a more specific question that I know, for example, this one was provided in one of the presentations. So here we're testing whether Claude is able to read the chart from the presentations report. So as you can see here, it immediately knows that this information was shared in the fourth quarter, in the quarterly presentation. Oh, that's amazing. It's even displaying the graph. Let's see how accurate it is. And here are the results. So you can see that it's 15.5 for 2025 and for 2026 is 34.9. So if we go to the presentations, you can see that it's also 15.5 and 34.9. So it was able to accurately extract this information from the charts. And then if you also check the capital return to shareholders, you can see all this information here from 8.1 to 4.1. And you can see this information displayed here from 8.1 to 4.1, which is amazing. So you can see that all of the information from the earnings report and the presentations, any kind of information, any kind of data, could be in text format, video, audio, anything can be fed to Claude and then be efficiently used to make your life easier. This is great, but how does it work? Let me show you how it works under the hood. Here we have 4 pieces working together. The user asks a question to Claude, and then Claude is linked to MCP, which is used for connecting external tools. And these tools will be reading information from my vector store database. And in this case, I'm using Qdrant as the vector store database. So I define the custom tools in a config file, so Claude can load them at startup. And now when I ask a question, Claude will know which function to use to retrieve the relevant information. It's like if they were built-in features in Claude. And MCP is the bridge between Claude and all these custom tools that I have defined. And to make it very simple to you, all these custom tools are Python functions, which I have here. And I'm gonna leave in the description below the link to the repository, so you can have access to all this code. Then we have Qdrant, which is where the magic happens. It's a vector store database, and it doesn't search by exact words, but by semantic meaning. For example, if a query states revenue increased, it will find all of this kind of information because they have the same semantic meaning, which fixes the problem of just doing a traditional keyword search because it will miss this kind of data. But in order to compare text data, we need to transform it to embeddings, and we're using Gemini embeddings, which is a multimodal embedding that is used to represent text, audio, videos, and so on. So in Qdrant, I have loaded almost 500 chunks of financial data of NVIDIA, and this is what I have loaded into my Qdrant collection. Here you can see information of the content, the name of the file, which chunk ID it is, which company name it refers to, which year, which quarter, number, which type of document, all of this kind of metadata that can be very useful later on to retrieve information. And here you can see at a high level which kind of data I have inserted into Qdrant. Here you can see that I have text chunks and also image chunks, and I have added different fields for the metadata. It can help a lot to retrieve the relevant documents. For example, if I ask a question to what happened in the second quarter, Qdrant will know to which documents to retrieve. Is it about the earnings call or the presentations? So all of these can be easily retrieved when you provide the metadata fields. But also I index the vectors based on this metadata, so it's even faster to retrieve the information, which is one of the advantages. And now let me show you how it can read the charts from the presentations. This system is using a multimodal embedding model from Google, which is the Gemini embedding tool that can map into the same embedding space the text, image, video and audio, and so on. So what I'm doing in Qdrant is I'm transforming all the text and also the images into the same unified space. So anytime that I ask a question to Claude, it can check across the text and the images from the presentations that I have inserted into Qdrant. And this is how it can find all the visuals. And every time that Claude gets asked a question, it will pick the right tool, fill in the parameters, and execute the search to answer the question in the best way possible. And let me quickly show you how one of these tools actually works. The first step is to connect to Qdrant. In my case, it's hosted on my local machine, but you can also use it connected to the cloud. And then Claude feeds the metadata that is extracted based on the user query. And then we try to search in Qdrant if there's any information related to that topic, which is used as a context when Claude is generating the final answer to the user. So this is what it actually means to you now. The research that used to take you all evening now takes you around 15 minutes because you are not reading all the documents anymore. You're just scanning the data with Claude. And I'm not saying to skip the documents, just let Claude do the first pass. It finds what matters and then you can verify that information. And that's how you can stay on top of 5, 10, 15 and even 20 stocks without burning out. And this is what we had for the video today. And also for you to know, I'm building an AI and data science community in which I'm gonna be sharing content every week. So please come and join us. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to subscribe for more content that actually saves you time. Hit the like button below and don't forget to turn on the notification bell. See you in the next one.